Paul Pluschkell is founder and CEO of StartupOS, a company looking to bridge a lot of those issues. Paul, welcome to Wharton Business Daily. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So Silicon Valley Bank, who did our Series A funding, has an incubator program. They're always looking at ways to help startups on the journey. It's a crazy maze and a journey for a startup. And they have an incubator program, and they incubated the idea around an operating system for startups. They had asked me, being a serial founder, to come in and take a look at the business plan, and I worked with them along the way. And I found myself eventually becoming the CEO of this, working with Silicon Valley Bank. Well, we did about 400 interviews, actually, and we took a look at why do so many startups fail? And we came up with three really, obvious reasons, right? They run out of capital or they can't find capital. A lot of that is because they can never find or achieve product market fit. And part of that is they really didn't know what to do or how to navigate the journey and what to do next or to focus on what was really important. So we rolled up why startups failed, and then we created a platform, what we call the operating system for startups. We provide tools and guidance. You can get a lot of that on the web, but not in a structured navigational way of here's what you should do, here's how you do it. It kind of learn by doing tools. We provide access to a community. A lot of first-time founders don't have access to great mentors, don't have access to capital or investors. So we provide them with our community. So they're immediately plugged in. Our 20, 30 years of experience, they get the benefit of right of way. And what we're doing is we're guiding them to validate ideas, build MVPs, getting their first customer, and hopefully finding and getting access to capital on their journey through product market fit.
Kind of a path, a storm formula, be able to find that level of success.
Yeah, I always look at startups. I'm a serial startup founder myself, 5 startups, and founders are mosaics, right? It's not a to B to C to D, right? They might start in a different place, but we have to understand where their starting point is, what their goals or outcomes are, and then we help them on that navigational path. And then startups have to connect a lot of dots themselves, but we can help connect dots through the process. So it's not a complete structure where if you do these 10 things, you will be successful, right? It's not how it works, but we can certainly help navigate them through a lot of the things that they struggle with, and knowing what they struggle with really leads to some success.
We hear from so many people how important it is. For you specifically, what is it about mentorship you think it is one of those components?
I think it's validation, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel on everything we do. There's some things that are truly disruptive and you're on your own journey, your own path. And then there's a lot of experts in places. One of my favorite quotes from David Sachs was, distribution is an innovation, right? You might have a great product, but how are you going to get it to market? You might be looking to raise capital. What are the formulas? How do you speak the VC language to raise capital? There's a lot of nuances inside the details that mentors can fill in some blanks for you and help you along that journey. And sometimes a mentorship, and look, I've done 5 startups. I've been in this business for 30 years. I still have key mentors that I go to, right? We talk about things, and then we get the effect of a much broader network. If I have a conversation with you, there might be a serendipitous type of information that's passed along that I wouldn't have had. Oh, by the way, I'm working with another company that did this. Oh, there's an adjacent market here that did this. One time this was successful. And then you as the startup founder need to understand which part of that conversation or what part of the advice you want to take. It's not like, I'm going to take all this information, write it down and do it, but there might be keys to it that really help you on your journey.
Let me take kind of some of the dynamics out of play that we hear recently that there are, potentially some issues out there at times with funding, but just the component of funding that maybe a lot of entrepreneurs don't get out there. What have you found out kind of the path to be able to ease the funding component?
So you can imagine that this is probably one of the most asked questions that we get from first-time founders, right? And it's so important. And I really think there's a dynamic here that you could really learn from. First, you have to, and I'm going to start with VC, not alternative funding right now, but I'll talk about VC funding. You have to convince the VC that you're low risk. You must understand how they see numbers. They want rapid growth. They want paying customers. They want fresh ideas, big markets, great team. But there's 2 types. One, I'm a pre-product market fit company, meaning I have to start with, hey, we have a very experienced team and, we've worked together already for a long time. You de-risk that. And then there's, when you're already getting some market fit traction, now you have different KPIs. hey, we have 10,000 engaged users who use the app daily. So you have to understand your numbers, retention, engagement, DAUs, MAUs, churn. This is part of that mentorship or the program learn by doing tools that StartupOS offers, and understanding how you calculate a CAC. Then you start saying that we start monetizing conversion and it's X% and why it's low risk. So the more data points you can present that speak their language, the lower the risk they find with their investment. And then second, you have to prove, and we all know this, that there's a huge potential in the market. They're not looking for something that can do $5 million of revenue. So if you master your total addressable market and your SAM and your SUM, meaning that you can prove from a top down, but more importantly, a bottom up, if we have this many customers paying this in this particular segment, this gets believable. It's not just a hockey stick with no thought behind it. So I think that's really key. And then I think there's one final thing. You have to show that there's interest. You can't just find one VC. Like, it's a fear of missing out. We all have it. So you have to mention, without speaking names, that you're talking to others. If you get a term sheet, you want to move it faster. It has to seem hot. So it's not pressure around getting them to do it, but, make sure that you go wide on this. You have to narrow in on a VC that is in your sub-segment, your market, understands your space, doesn't have a direct competitor, but then you also have to talk to many. And you have to learn from these meetings. I've done hundreds of meetings on Sand Hill Roads. I took copious notes. You have to learn from every meeting. And again, just like a mentor, some of the things you want to take and some of the things you say, no, that's not really for me because I'm a startup. I'm a mosaic. I have something that they may have never seen before. They just don't understand. But for the most part, you have to speak their language. Yeah, right now our platform really caters to the initial, what we call the burst stage. I call it the 0 to 180 days. It doesn't have anything to do with days, but it means where you're at. But if you already have a profitable product or service and are ready to scale, probably not a good fit for our platform yet. We're a new platform. But if you're looking for pre-seed, seed, or Series A investments, and you're looking to get your first customer, get an MVP, find product market fit, that's really great for our platform. So I think the initial burst stage, what you hit on is exactly correct. So I think in our KPIs and our OKRs, we're saying that, and I won't share the exact percentages, but we know that 90% of all startups failed. We think we can give them a much better chance of surviving and getting funded and understanding what the market is. I think a lot of great ideas just fail because they don't know what to do. They run out of time. They run out of capital. They don't have great direction. You can go to school for a lot of things. It's hard to go to school and understand how to do a startup because you can take a lot of classes, but every journey is unique. So for us, I think this year, we want to get 10,000 startups on our platform. We want to see that 1,000 of them or 10% do get funded. And then in year 2, we want to see how they're doing. And the ones that don't get funded, we want to make sure that we're learning why. Like, first of all, there's a big percentage of ideas that are not scalable. So first of all, we have to take those out. You have to have a scalable. You might have a great startup that's a $5 million lifestyle business, and that's fantastic. Congratulations. Just know that. Just know that you're not going to go the VC route or build a scalable company. So those could be very successful companies that aren't funded. So we have to take a look at those too. I mean, really what we want to do is we want to be a place where all startups start up. We want to feel like you just had a Stanford or Harvard MBA and you have access to the same mentors and networks that the few people that are fortunate enough to go to those schools do and get the same experience with the same tools and the same connection to people and make it democratized across North America to start and then eventually the world. When I did my first company, it was going to take $5 million to build out the idea. And you would get funded on a PowerPoint because you couldn't get an MVP. Today, and this has been happening a long time, so this is fairly obvious, but it's really an important point. There's so many free tools and services out there. If I could just connect the dots and build things. And I think the most important thing for an entrepreneur is you have to really trust your data. If you build a product and you have a persona and you go to the market and it's not getting adopted, you have to understand that. You can't try to keep pushing this rock up the hill. It's not that it's a bad idea, but you have to look at what am I missing? What am I not seeing? And today there's so much access, like ChatGPT is taking over the world, right? We all see that every day. But, you need some content. You need some information. Do you need to hire somebody or can you use this tool? All the SaaS providers offer so many tremendous tools for startups to start up, whether it's something on Jira that you're doing a product roadmap, but just coordinating and organizing your ideas. So StartupOS is really just consolidating all those efforts of you taking all this time to search for these pieces, get onto our platform. We'll do all that heavy lifting for you and let you focus on what's real, getting traction with a paying customer that wants your service.